now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hey. Good morning, and welcome to another incredible episode of Vigilantes Radio Live right here on iHeartRadio. And my name is Deanie. I am your host. I do have to mention that this particular episode is pre-recorded, and I can't wait to deliver it to your inboxes and for you guys who subscribe to the show, you'll be the first to know. Well, anyways, welcome again. We have a very special guest this morning, and I can't wait to dive into all the things that he's involved in. But before we bring him on, I do want to say, imagine it so. Not only can you see and understand what is, you can imagine what is to be. It is a precious and wonderful ability that can make all the difference in the world. There is no limit to what you can imagine, no matter what may have happened in the past or what the reality of the present may be. You can imagine the future in any way that you wish. Valuable and flexible as imagination can be, there is something even better, and that is your ability to take the best you can imagine and make it real. When you combine imagination with some action, discipline, and commitment, you can literally change the world. Look at any achievement, either great or small, and you will see a case of imagination that has been forged into reality. Even as a child, with much less knowledge and experience than you now possess, you had a strong imagination. Just think how much more powerful that ability to imagine has now grown. I know sometimes, the 9-to-5 cycle, go to work, get married, and have children, and, sometimes that can, put a blanket over your imagination because you stop dreaming at some point and just start working to live, But put your imagination to positive use and focus your efforts on bringing about the best that you can imagine. My name is Coach Deanie, and change is possible. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Well, let's go. All right. Again, welcome to the show. You're listening to VRL, that's Vigilantes Radio Live, right here on iHeartRadio, and I am your host, Deanie. Our interviews are designed to go beyond music, news, books, art, acting, films, technology, education, entrepreneurship, entertainment, and sometimes even past that thing that we call the ego. Our interviews are designed to go behind the scenes and into the minds of these awesome human beings, the ones who are out there giving it their all for me, for you, and for the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this morning we are honored to welcome an extraordinary individual whose life and work inspire us to think beyond boundaries. William Demps, a U.S. Navy combat veteran, psychic, Reiki Master, and Hollywood creator, has captivated audiences with his visionary projects. From Imajination Volume 1, which is out for release now on Amazon and anywhere else you grab your books, to the Luminous Universe. He's on a mission to unlock human potential and bridge the gap between imagination and reality. So please join me in saying welcome, friend, to William Demps. Demps, hello. Welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
We're here in Virginia. We just had that crazy snowstorm between 3 and 5 inches of snow, and it's You know, you just got to deal with the weather sometimes. I'm in good shape, though.
All right. Did you get snowed in, or were you able?
We did. Yeah, everything's safe and sound over here. You know, it's just, you know, when there's a storm coming, you know, I was a weatherman in the Navy. You know, you can predict when a storm's coming, and then, you know, there's a difference between when something's coming and then when it hits you. And, you know, when things are good, we got to celebrate when you're alive and things are kicking. But for people that are not in good, you know, shape, especially with the stuff going on in California, we just got to send prayers out and, you know, just wish for the betterment for everybody.
Absolutely. With the new year and everything that's going on, snow, California, you know, Donald Trump, what's been on your heart and mind lately as you are going about shaking hands, hugging necks, kissing babies, you know, getting the word out about your new book?
You know, it's different days and different things. Can you do me a favor real quick?
Sure.
Open one of your hands. It doesn't matter if it's your dominant or non-dominant hand.
Okay.
You know when you feel a warmth, tingling, or pressure?
A little tingle, but no pressure.
Yeah, that's me. I'm going into your system right now. This is just me having a psychic connection with you. Yeah, it's just different days, different things. You know, working as a baker, you know, you're always dealing, I'm going to say sometimes with crazy customers. You know, yesterday, you know, you might have a customer say, hey, can I get, you know, pick up my cake tomorrow during a snowstorm? And it's like, you want to drive out in the snow? You know, people really think that way sometimes. You know, it's just dealing with the public. And, you know, being alive, you know, is a precious thing. You know, how did we get here on planet Earth, right? And one of the things, I'm not a preacher. I don't like, you know, preaching about certain things. But what I do tell people is that, you know, we get our spirit from God and we get our body from Mother Earth. And both of these things are actually quite crazy. You know, and here in Virginia in particular, we still have Civil War spirits, whether you're in Prince George, the Tri-City areas, Gettysburg. You know, we have sometimes a destined mission that we have on planet Earth. And what I want people to do with their imagination is kind of just, you know, what do you want to do? You know, whether you want to go to Disneyland, whether you want to go to college. You know, one of the things that's also, you know, provocatively dangerous is that oftentimes we do use our imaginations to get what we want, but we don't always get what we want sometimes. Nobody goes to college to go into like $60,000 to $1,000, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And, you know, what is debt exactly? You know, I don't have any student loans, but I still get those goofy phone calls from people, you know, or telemarketers say, hey, we want to get rid of your student loans. And it's like, I wonder how you got that information, right? You know, we live in a crazy place, right? And it's just what it is outside of politics, you know. One thing that I always want to tell people, especially, you know, with Imagination Volume 1, we do have a physical reality. And I was part of the Haiti relief effort in 2010. I actually was not supposed to be on the ship on the Gunston Hall. I was illegally sent on to combat, which is its own little goofy conversation with the that's just going to be its own goofy conversation with the White House that I'm expecting to be having. And this happened during Obama's presidency, not under Trump. So this is going to be a really kind of a crazy conversation with Trump getting into office, especially with me moving up, you know, the Hollywood ladder and becoming a published author, you know, a public figure and stuff. And, you know, we live on this earth. Planet Earth is really crazy. It's a really crazy place. We're always finding something new. There's different types of earths. There's different types of minerals, the same type of ways. And I think if you're a farmer, you would know this. If you plant certain crops in different parts of the country, can be the same crop, same type of seed, you're going to get different results. Water tastes differently in different parts of the country and in different parts of the world. What's also so fascinating, you know, just when we think about our imagination and relaying information, we always hear about global warming. We always hear about that crap, and it's crap. If you were to like leave, let's say, out in the middle of the ocean on a military ship or a cruise, whatever, and let's say you get to 0, 0, which if you were to look on the equator or look on any map, 0, 0 is literally smack dab middle of the entire globe, right? The water, when you get that far out in the middle of the ocean, is pristine clear. Like you can see like so straight down that it's going to be reflecting the sky. And when it gets to, you know, dusk or dawn, the ocean is going to be reflecting the sky. And if you have no swell or sea waves, it's going to look like you're sailing on top of a mirror. It's really kind of crazy. And if you have a full moon at night, you will see all the stars in the sky. You will see all the crazy shenanigans that happens with whatever is going on with the cosmos, including with shooting stars. And I've seen shooting stars out in the middle of the ocean, so that was kind of crazy. Yeah, it's just, we live in a very crazy place. And, you know, when we think about books, and, you know, especially with me becoming a published author, I always tell people, just because I wrote something doesn't mean you can't find something for yourself. And sometimes, when things change between hands from one generation to another, let's look at the video game industry, for example. If you were to ever look up the interviews for, let's say, Devil May Cry 3 to Devil May Cry 4, even to Devil May Cry 5, this is a little bit specific, but it's a great case in point. The directors of those video games said that certain things in game mechanics could not be done within one generation of console gaming to the next, particularly with Devil May Cry 4. One of the things that, I'm learning, even as a baker, right, I'm feeding the public, whatever doesn't get sold, out of the bakery gets donated to the local churches and the homeless. Sometimes a generation can do something that the previous generation couldn't because of technical limitations. And one thing that's really brutal right now in our time as a human civilization, we're not coming together, right? We have all this technology, we have all these different things going on right here, and I am saying up front, I am multiracial, I'm not biracial. My dad's black and Korean, so I have the crazy afro, and my mom's French and Cherokee, so I have had that interaction with customers and with people, and say, why is that Asian's eyes changing colors? Like, well, because I'm mixed. That's just what it is. My genetics are really kind of crazy, like they're really all over the place and stuff, right? So, it's just, this is the reality that we're living in. Blood is blood, but there are different types of blood, and not everyone's going to get along, but everybody knows that shit stinks. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And, it's just where we're at in things. And when I wrote Imagination Volume 1, I wrote it when I was in college, and when my PTSD was kind of just all over the place, and I have been formally diagnosed with that in a crippling sense. And I'm still able to function out in the world. I'm still able to, to see what's going on, even, on New Year's Eve, it's like, who goes into an emergency situation? It's like, do people actually have, emergencies? Is this a destined thing? And sometimes potholes just happen, and sometimes you can be coming from a Thai restaurant. You're just getting your thing, you're getting your beer, whatever, getting ready to celebrate the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And a motorcycle accident happens where somebody did a literal barrel roll, and 3 people had to get out of their car, including myself, and obviously, I didn't tell these people I was a psychic.
Oh, wow.
With one of them being a registered nurse, and the other one was also in the medical field. And it's like, who gets out of their car, who calls 911, who comes together during a crisis, right? Do crises happen? They do. Is it planned? Kind of, not really. Things happen. This is an unstable environment. People always ask me, especially as a psychic, does God have a plan? Is this universe really crazy? It's like, why did this happen to me? Why did I have a stillborn child? And it's like, look, we live in a crazy place. This is just a crazy place. The universe is crazy. It's just, it's like if you put a bag of popcorn in the microwave, you intentionally put that, bag of popcorn in the microwave. But most people don't know the watts to their microwave, right? So it's like, why did it come out burnt? It's like, do you know the watts to your microwave to the popcorn bag? No. Well, there you go, right? It's like, well, you have the microwave. You didn't read. Well, you kind of read the instructions. And that's kind of where we're at with Imagination Volume 1. We're kind of reading things, right? We're kind of figuring things out. Sometimes, and I'm going to say it, it's going to piss a lot of people off, the system can be wrong, right? Sometimes you can be looking something up in the inventory and the computer says you have a -0 quantity. That is mathematically impossible, but the system is still going to say that. No bullshit. And it's kind of like, oh, this is where we're at with reality, right? And it's like, here we are, right? And it's like, that's just the nature of the beast. And what I really want people to take, really seriously, especially from this interview, and I'm so thankful for it, and I, encourage for future, interviews and stuff. I really love people, and we need to really love each other. This whole thing, post-Me Too, and especially from the goofy stuff with COVID, like one of the things that happened to me, particularly in COVID, I had never had in my entire life, through 3 years of period, had so much pornography advertisements hit my phone, hit my social media, right? And it's like, what is going on here? It's like, I don't even look at porn. It's like, what is going on with these systems promoting sexual activity, and they're not even, trying to defend you if something happens, right? Like, who are these people sending things? That's the truth.
You want to cover it a little bit, because I think that's intentional, man. Same thing happened to me.
Yeah, dude, and it's like, who comes to your aid when something happens, right? And if you so much as go to a bar, right, who do you count on, right? And you know what? This is a crappy thing to say, but it's equally true. When I was in the military, people want to get these pins, these ribbons, and you think men get ribbons in the military? It's like, that's what they're called. That's what they put on their chest. They call it chest candy. You wear the chest candy. I'm calling it a ribbon. That's what the language is. And that's not homosexuality. It's like, it's men getting ribbons. They're putting it on their chest. I mean, that's what they're doing. Women are doing it too. I mean, that's just what it is. And just because you get these certificates, just because you get these pins, just because you get these ribbons, just because you get these accolades, just because you get this rank, doesn't mean you're combat qualified, and that doesn't mean you're going to get up and go to combat. So we have a real serious issue right now, and when we think of our imaginations, the trophies and stuff, we still live in this day and age where, Olympians can get their medals taken away from them from being found out to be have done something, right? Like, how do you earn something and then that gets taken away from you, right? Like, that's kind of like that's some next gen repo shit. Like, seriously, it's like, we're gonna repossess your medal that we gave you after you won it legally years later. I'm like, that makes sense. That's like, we think about reparations and shit in the black community, and it's like, well, what do you call that? And it's like, I don't know. It's just people just doing what they want. They're gonna find their avenue to get what they want, right? And that's unfortunately where we're at in this time and space. People are using avenues, language, particularly, a lot of times in the gaming industry and a lot of times in intellectual spheres. They're going to use language, and they're going to put things within language and words to get what they want and to eschew things. And I want people to be very careful, and that's why I really talk in basic language sometimes, because people want to use big words and nobody knows what they're talking about. And it's like the reality that we're living in is people are going to try to get over on you to get what they want, right? And being a baker in the day and a psychic at the night, I read different things and I do my Hollywood works, and I'm really doing goofy stuff, and I can read what people are doing. It's like, some people are just trying to run a heavy game of bullshit. That's just what it is, and that's very unfortunate. And in dating, especially in 2024, all the way from COVID, Me Too and all this stuff, this is a very sad state that we're in right now, where people are, one, they're not talking straight. The illiteracy rate that's going on right now, and Imagination Volume 1 may be getting ready to go into a Texas school system, middle school system, so that would be quite interesting to shake up the college systems with. The literacy rate, what's going on with women right now, what they're asking of men, they want men, with 6 figures, they got to be 6 foot and all this stuff. This is coming from, and I say this to any man that's listening right now, if you hear a woman saying this stuff, this is illiteracy. She can't read. And if you tell her that she's illiterate and she gets mad at you, that's proving the point, right? How do you read? Most people, for real, if you were to go into any grocery store, Publix, Walmart, Food Line, whatever, Wegmans, whatever, and you go and you get yourself, a 6-pack of Pepsi, most people can't read what the amount of sugar is in it physically, right? What is a gram or a cube of sugar, and how much is that exactly? This is the reality that we're living in. People can't read, and it's hard to read things, right? It's the nature of the beast. But however, people want to be right and argumentative. And there's a serious danger with that, because if people don't know what they're reading, how can they be right? And this is where we're at right now. See how this is becoming like a cyclical loop? And whenever you play video games, right, and I've played, fighting games, actually I fought the YouTuber, and shout out to the YouTubers Ginger Prime and Scotty Combat. I talk with them regularly, actually, and I can send you a link if you talk with Atticus Publishing. Me and this YouTuber called Scotty Combat, we both play Mortal Kombat 1 regularly. I jump on his stream. We just duke it out. It's like people, they learn what they learn from the game, and they put it, fist to fist. And I learned so much from this YouTuber named Scotty Combat. I love that man very much. And I'm actually I'm training for the Evolution tournament where it's really going to get gnarly. And nobody knows what happens. Yep, nobody knows what happens in the tournament scene. It's just crazy clusterfuck land. It's for real. And, when you learn from somebody, you learn, right? You can make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes and be wrong, right? Because you learned something. Suck up your ego. It's like, well, I didn't do that combo. Well, if you know what neutral is in fighting games, and you can apply this in real life, neutral is when you and your opponent don't have an advantage. That sounds very counterintuitive. It's like, well, I'm supposed to be over somebody. It's like, real life doesn't work that way. You can't be having road rage on the road, for example. If you're driving, you can't be the dictator on the road. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. And now we have 50 different laws in this country where that, where that's actually applicable. 50 different ways. Make that make sense. And when we think about, fighting games and duking it out, I can send you the link, what's going on. And, I lost some, he won some, and I won some, he lost some. But it was a great way of showing, skill and how you learn and how you take a loss and how you take a win. And this is where we're at with reality. It's like when men and women have sex, babies come out for whatever reason, and I'm going to say for what it is. We've had that push with feminism, and, as a published author, it's like, William, what do you think about feminism and shit? I am an anti-feminist and a psychic. I know when people are running bullshit. When men and women have sex, babies come out, and you know what? Condoms break. We had that push from the medical community, the political communities, the, all the educational communities with birth control and all this stuff. And the idea and the theory was, can we have women, be a sexual plaything? And you know what? We have the results for like 70 years where this has turned out to not be the case, right? Boy, that sucks. That totally sucks, but that's where we're at. We're in an era where women were given, 40 forms of birth control and men have condoms with spermicide. And you know what? None of this works. It just doesn't work. Yeah. It just doesn't work, and it totally sucks. It's true. I mean, it's like the single motherhood and all this stuff. And my dead mother was a social worker, so I heard these stories, growing up before she died when I was 16.
Yeah.
And it's like, some people, for real, and this is a painful thing to say, some people can't act right. Some people are stubborn, stupid. And when you get older, whether it's you, me, anybody, the likeliness that someone's going to change is going to be a pain in the ass, and the likeliness that someone's going to get further set in their ways is going to increase. So a lot of times, unfortunately, people are going to show their true colors. And when we deal with stress, when we deal even with writing, it's like writing, it's like, well, do you know how to do magic and stuff? First off, I know how that works, and it's not that big of a deal. People do it in churches all the time. I mean, when you light a candle and you put an intention, whether that's an electric candle or a physical candle, and the color of the candle matters, it's called candle magic. I mean, Christians do it all the time in their church, and they say whatever, verbiage from the Bible, and that's just that they're practicing magic. That's just what it is. I mean, they can call it something else, but it's like, bread is bread. There's like, I make different types of bread from the bakery. Sometimes it takes different flours, but it's just what it is. Bread. But what I really want, I mean, it's just what it is. You do something, it's like you go in the military, it doesn't really matter what branch you're in, and you might get called out to be the wrong branch by different civilians of a different country, and you got to suck it up. And some people in the Navy don't like being called soldiers. They should just shut the fuck up. They just, what it is, it's just, I mean, it's just, you get into a situation and they call you to be a soldier, it's important for you to get out of the situation, not be right about your label. And we also have an issue with that right now.
Labels,
yeah, being multiracial, and, I'm running into so many different types of people in public. I've ran into children, it could be, 17, 18. They definitely, it's like, William, if you got pulled by a police officer, would you say that person was between 16 or 19? Yes. And this person, or many of these people, they were very bland, I don't want to call them pasty white black people, but that's just what it is. They got the freckles, and they also have red hair and blue eyes. They were naturally born this way. This is not something where it's like I'm making up, a label, with Z's or that Tumblrette bullshit with, the transgender community, where it's like, well, I'm going to just non-binary myself and say, therefore, that's the universe. And it's like, I have never seen where that actually works. And then two, we have a variety of people, young people, I'm going to be 37 this year, that are becoming, of age of majority, 18 years old. And this is not an ethical way that we deal with people. You can't just say you're 20% black, therefore you can only listen to some part of music, right? It's like, first off, that's totally insane. You can't tell somebody how to act. And then two, that's part of that person's genetics. What if that person has sickle cell anemia? And I know, people from the black community with sickle cell anemia. So it's like, first off, medically, that it doesn't work that way. And then two, people are just being controlling with how things are functioning in the marketplace, be that digitally, in a mall, a grocery store, whatever. And in social media, that's kind of the name of the game, how I can be right and run my mouth. And as a published author, whether I get compared to J.K. Rowling's or, whatever, I always tell people, where you're at in the road, where you're at when you're taking a journey in life. And I really want people to understand real life is really kind of crazy. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Sometimes you might wake up, I was supposed to go, I wasn't supposed to go on that deployment when I was in the Navy. I was supposed to go to Africa, and then guess what? A random freak earthquake came into Haiti, into the voodoo land, and it completely did ground zero and completely flatlined that continent. And when you get there before the USS Comfort arrives, all that X-rated stuff is there. Women are giving birth to dead babies. Sewage has been exploding, deep ground and all that. Literal shit water comes from the deep ground to the ground up. People are dying left and right. Why do you smell hot dogs? This really bizarre hot dog smells because they're burning bodies. That's what it smells like. And, things can really happen. Snow really comes down. And unfortunately, I'm going to be very harsh about this subject because we have a lot of people that are going to claim to be strong, independent women. I will stick a strong, independent woman at 20 degrees Fahrenheit and leave her out there with a coat overnight, and we're going to see how strong she really is, right? There's a reality that we're living in right now, and you can just pop in, do whatever bravado nonsense that you can, just like they do in the military. When the real deal situation happens, be that you find out one day you have cancer and it can kill you. That happened to my dead mom. And it's like you go to the ER, they don't know what's wrong with you. They have to do all these blood tests, and you're going to die in 8 months. These things actually happen. Like these things, this is a harsh place that we live in. And our job as human beings, I'm not saying if you're black, I'm not saying, obviously I'm multiracial, Asian, whatever. Our job as human beings, we're here to love and take care of each other. Some people say, well, what if I'm gay? It's like, if we have to have the conversation that you like either taking it up the butt or putting it up someone's butt, I mean, I guess that's the conversation we're going to have. You want to marry somebody doing that? That's you. You got to live your life. That you got to go with the consequences that goes with that. That's where we're at. I mean, they do it. You want to use a label, so this is what comes with it. You go to the doctor with a complaint, they're going to say, well, we think this is what's going wrong with you, and that's their medical opinion, and they will give you prescriptions because of that. And we live in this is a hostile world, but it's also a beautiful world, and we have to really use our imagination, figure out what's going on with our food. How do you make rice, right? Most people don't know that the way that you make sticky rice is all you have to do, simple stuff, is just wash your rice between 3 and 5 times. Any type of, Asian rice, white rice, jasmine rice, whatever. It's a little bit different with brown rice. All you have to do is just take 1 cup of, rice, put some water in it, wash it 3 to 5 times until the starch comes out, boil it in the rice cooker or however you want to boil it, and you have your sticky rice. That's it. That's the mystery has been solved. Right, that's where we're at with things.
That helps me out. I'm terrible at making rice.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I always tell people, if you really want to get creative, you can put some, frozen vegetables in it when you're boiling the rice. You can put some Cajun seasonings and Asian seasonings like I do. Cayenne, paprika, black pepper, Korean pepper flakes, some gochujang if you want to get creative. And I'm the type of person, when I'm cooking, I will use butter and peanut oil. I'm not going to go down the olive oil route. I just like working with peanut oil. That's just what it is. I love peanut oil. You can basically get away with murder with that. And, what I really want to tell people, enjoy your life. When I want people to really take away from, especially in the last chapter of Imagination Volume 1, you can be given a recipe on how to bake something. And the recipe, and I'll tell you the story, in Virginia, most people from Virginia are not from Virginia. If I had to give it a percentage, it's between 60 to 70%. This is also a military-dominated state with many military bases. And Washington, D.C. is up the corner, literally like a 2-hour drive from you, right? And there's all these historical sites. People in Virginia do not want to believe, and when I say believe, it's like they don't either care or they don't know or they don't give a shit, right? They don't believe that Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy.
Why don't they believe that? Isn't that in the books? Yeah, that's the reality that we're living in. They don't give a shit. It's like Richmond isn't the South. Richmond had the capital of the Confederacy. It's in the history books. It's literally a 30-minute drive from here. Right? Like that. And when we think about literacy and people want to run TikTok, that goofy conversation. People can be given information and don't know things. So people, as a history, as a case in point with baking, people in the South like softer cookies, people in the North like harder cookies. The amount of sugar that you put into the sugar cookie recipe will constitute its hardness. So when my bakery teacher said that, she said, people in the South like softer cookies. The cookie recipe called for 1.5 cups of white sugar and 1.5 cups of brown sugar. So you know what I did? What did you do?
I hijacked the recipe. I said, you know what? I'm going to make it 1 cup of white, 1 cup of brown. We're going to see what happens, right? And all the students mixed the sugar cookie recipe differently, right? They didn't hijack the recipe. Actually, I got scolded by it, because you always have those students like, you didn't follow the recipe, now you're going to get in trouble. And it's like, that stupid jazz. They're doing that Harry Potter crap. And, when my cookies were done, they were kind of like a cookie bread. Right? And, that's just what it was. And I'll never forget when my baking teacher showed up, there were 30 students in the class. Everybody had a different type of sugar cookie, right? We think about recipes and things that passes through generations, right? An elder teaches 30 students, we're the next generation. I hijacked the recipe. Everybody had their own version of the sugar cookie. And I'll never forget when she snapped my cookie in two, and she said, this is how these cookies are done, right? Sometimes someone's going to tell you something and not tell you, right? And that's a hard game of bullshit. And again, sometimes a generation can do something the other generation can't, and there could be a variety of reasons why. This is a crazy place. It's like we think about an equation or a mathematical, statements, right? And then that's exactly what it's called. When you look at, 2 + 2 = 4, it's a mathematical statement or an equation, like a statement to an English sentence, right? And there's going to be 2 parts, and you have the equal sign. That equal sign divides what's going on with everything plussing, and here's the solution. Real life is kind of like a crossroads. Things go in, things go out, and this is the solution, and this is going to change. And the other side of it that made this solution is going to be wild to look at, right? This is just where we're at. Sometimes you have to modify the recipe. Even with me as a baker, I could be given, the recipe for what's going on with the production of the day, and it's like, production said you're going to have 5 loaves of this, and I came out with 8, and I'm like, see, this is why sometimes you can't trust the system.
Oh yeah, right.
But that's where we're at, and I really want people to, take things as they read them, and sometimes you have to make adjustments. And I want people just to take themselves seriously. You got to take your meds, and understand where you're at in the line in the sand. This is a crazy place that we live in as a psychic. People ask me those deep questions about God. They ask me about spirit and stuff, and we get our spirits from God. I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Catholic, I'm not a Muslim. I am a Reiki Master. I do know on my dad's side of the family that all the men were actual shamans. And if you have Native American in your system of any kind, whether it's Cherokee like my mom or Sioux or Blackfoot, you are automatically open to the spirit world. So I do know what it means to actually physically see spirit in broad daylight. I do have that on a regular basis. I also know what it's like being in a haunted ground with Civil War spirits, and they don't know that they're dead. And it's like, so this is what happens, with Civil War spirits, right? You do certain things with your body, like with drugs, and I'm going to be very careful with my language. I'm not trying to abuse the platform. If you do something to yourself that causes you to, in the YouTube phrase, unalive yourself, like the cut your wrist type of thing, that is an absolute no-no. You are not under any circumstance supposed to do that. And if you go to the other side, which is kind of weird if you become a haunting spirit and you do that crap, you will stay in that perpetual state until if and when a spirit or a psychic or whoever pulls you out of that rut, right? As a lingering spirit. Yeah, dude, so don't ever do that. And don't do that with drugs. Do not do that with drugs. Of any drug, don't do it. I've never been on cocaine. I've never been on heroin. I've never been on any crazy methamphetamines. I've never seen spice before. Veterans Affairs, that's my medical, and I've never even been infected with COVID. So it's one of those things where we're walking around right now, and it's like people are doing things, not understanding what they're doing. This is a crazy place. We came out of COVID, and the Chinese are trying to make Resident Evil for real with an actual zombie virus. And I'm like, these crazy people. And then we had the censorship, and then I was getting those goofy phone calls, and I was like, I can't breathe and stuff, and had to go into somebody's lungs, and it's like, people aren't going to tell me where they're at, and as a psychic, I can, just zap somebody from a distance, or go through somebody, and, open up their lungs, just whatever I got to do to put my part into this solution to fix this crap, that's what we got to do. And that's where we're at with things. This is a crazy place. I don't know if Jesus Christ is real. There's a serious issue that happened with me on my last deployment that had to do with cult hazing, called the Crossing the Line ceremony, that I am going to probably be talking with President Trump about pretty soon. Yeah, and it's like, if you do this stuff, if you do this type of cult initiation hazing in an illegal, it doesn't matter if it's illegal or not, you will damn your soul. There are people that sell their souls, and whether they sell their souls for drugs, they sell their souls for money, they sell their souls for whatever. If you do this, it's going to destroy you. Don't ever do it, like under any circumstance. Somebody says, they call them blood contracts, or they call them, different things where it's like, if you give me this, I will do this for you. Don't ever do it, for real. Don't do it. Do not do any blood contracts. None of this soul selling crap doesn't work. Don't do it. As a Reiki Master and a psychic, not only will I know how to read this when something like this is going on, I know how to, diffuse the situation. And this is where we're at. There is a spiritual world, there is a physical world. And our imagination is that bridge between the two, and we will see different things, right? People will have different experiences with things, right? That's just what it is. And we need to come together as a community to figure out what's going wrong. A farmer cannot feed the public. The the farmer has to make the goods, whether that's the cabbage, whether that's the cows that have to get butchered. Things have to go down a pipeline, and then that pipeline has to go and hit the public. There is a process to things, right? Sometimes that process is incredibly complicated. It's not just say, hey, get it up there, right? As much as we would like for that to be the case in the instant, gratification generation. And on this note, with instant gratification, I'm going to be very hard on the TikTok community. I don't really give a shit about them. And I know this because you're black. I know this because I'm black. When you go to very impoverished black communities where there are Chinese shops, the Chinese will typically sell, wigs and beauty products to the black community, particularly the women, to make them feel beautiful, whether they got alopecia or whatever's going on with their hair. The Chinese, like with TikTok, they're selling people to sell themselves, right? So they can run their mouth to sell themselves for the company and be given scraps for what they're making their money from. Like, how does social media make money, right? Right. And then how much of that money goes to you? Pennies, what do they call it? Pennies to the dollar? So you're really going to run your mouth to wreck your marriage or whatever for pennies to, tens of thousands of dollars, right? People are actually doing that like that, and they think that's a big deal. That's true. I mean, you got to figure out ways to. It's true. It's like it's like these people on TikTok. They're just running their mouth saying crazy shit, and then you bring in feminism, and people want to be right, and it's like, whenever you work in a kitchen, everybody has a part to play, right? No football team is led by one man, right? Everybody has to pull their part. There may be a key person, but a team is a team, and a person is a person. There is no one-man army, right? It takes 4 people to man a stretcher in combat. That's the law. That's the law.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's just what it is. And we have our imagination. This is how we read things. This is how we perceive things. This is how we interact with God. Even the Bible was imagined, right? And I have seen Bibles get destroyed. When I was in Haiti, churches were falling down. Bibles get destroyed. Be that a wall fell on top of them. They were burned. I mean, it's like when you see that type of stuff, and the Christians saw that, they kind of lost their heads. Wow. And when Christians, I'm going to be very harsh on this topic to the Christians and the Catholics and the Muslims. Just because if you see your Bible get destroyed, and that Bible one way will return back to the earth, that is not an immaterial thing. Bibles are made up of something with paper. Even my book will one day turn back into dust one day. That's the reality that we live in. Just because you see your church fall down, just because you see your pastor act a fool, just because you see the Bible get destroyed, that is not a license for you to be insane.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree.
It's I practice tarot. I have a tarot deck. I have this tarot deck. It's an elemental one. I've had it for like damn near 10 years. It's showing its age. And I have another tarot deck. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Final Fantasy series. Yoshitaka Amano does so much artwork. He's basically been the godfather of Final Fantasy in terms of like artwork and stuff. There's been other artists like Tetsuya Nomura and stuff. But this other tarot deck I have was illustrated by Yoshitaka Amano, and it's pretty much a Final Fantasy tarot deck. I'm still working with it. It's got such a strong energy to it. I can feel it. It's very masculine. But things will return back to dust, and it's our job as creatives, whether we're working in Hollywood, to make stories to inspire people. But that's still not a license to browbeat over somebody, right? There's so many different types of Americans walking around right now. And, we're figuring out what we are. And what we're not is, cutting off our genitalia, trying to be, Frankenstein cybernetic, other gender. And that just doesn't work. People were not born in the wrong body. There are complications, though, when people are born. People are born with sickle cell anemia. People are born with genetic defects. People still are born, what do they call that, with a cleft lip, where, the middle part of their top lip is missing. This is where we're at. But what we're not going to do is cut ourselves to get our way, right? That's not what we're going to do. That is totally immoral. That is totally unethical. And, with these people, if there's a transgender hearing me right now, especially with me as a psychic and I'm projecting, just mass sending energy out everywhere, it is not okay for you to hurt yourself under any circumstance. You have to accept what you are. And it's like, well, what if I just like taking up the butt? Then that's what you like to do. You got to be safe and clean about it, though, and you got to find the right person you're going to do it with. That's it. That's the magic to the mystery, right? That's the mystery to the magic. Find who you want to play with, and that's it. You're not going to play well with everyone. That's just what it is. And, if we went things to the court system with divorce courts, We have seen plenty of people with all sorts of family. I don't even know if you want to call them families. You just call them clusterfucks, where you have women with different men and different children, and it's just a hot kangaroo court mess. And we don't solve our problems with sex. People have tried that, doesn't work. But what we do know is that we can still, as best as we can, try to do things in a civil manner. And we need civility right now, for real. Whether it's in a snowstorm, whether it's on social media. Even when I was fighting Scotty Combat, and it was such a beautiful experience, when you're just throwing, and obviously if you think it's Mortal Kombat, you're trying to kill the other person, which is technically true. You can still be civil, and you can still put your heart into it, and you can still learn. And what we need right now is we need to learn and to love each other, to learn and what's going on with our differences. There's some people that are walking around and they say, well, I'm gay or something, right? And it's like, well, there's like how many women on planet Earth, right? Or I'm straight, and people are, just doing different things. People are just doing different things. And it's like most people don't know how to cook. And actually, if you were to go into any grocery store, and we think about our imagination and stuff and astronaut nonsense, right, with Elon Musk. A lot of the food that we're eating, whether you're talking about, what do they call it, the Cheez-Its and, the Pringles and all that stuff, it's been using, high upgrade astronaut technology, right? That's what they've been using. They've been using astronaut technology and high-end technology to mass-produce food, right? But it only takes a couple seconds to take some broccoli out of the raw area in the produce section, put some peanut oil on it, put some salt and pepper on it, throw it in the oven for 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until how you like it, as charred as you like it, and you got yourself some roasted vegetables. But what are people going to do? They're going to try and take the easy way out while they can't read, right? Mm-hmm. This is where we're at. It's where we're at. And it's where we're at. It's what people are doing. What were people doing, when COVID first happened, right? They tried to steal from the, everybody for toilet paper, right? It's like, you don't know how to wash your butt for real. Mm. What were people doing before diapers were around, right? They had to, get up the kid's butt and how to wash that with some water and soap, right? Yeah. And my great-grandfather, he was an assistant surgeon general under late President Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson, and I still have that letter. And I'd be open to sharing that letter with you. And, he sent me this letter, it was during a real crazy, spiritual family experience. And he was telling me, different things in his letters, what it was like, dealing with the bubonic plague.
Oh, wow.
Before World War I. So it's like, damn, with that crazy jazz. What was that disease doing unchecked, for real, right? And it's just, here we're at with COVID, and it's like, what are people doing? Not washing their hands for 20 seconds with, a biovirus that doesn't know it's alive, and it's just, going totally insane, and it's just, you got to understand with what you're doing with your imagination, what your intentions are. And sometimes you might get into a fight with somebody, like in an online match. Show some chivalry, show some civility. And to any woman that can hear me right now, you need to drop your bullshit with whatever you have with your hate against men. We have a generation, I would say 4 to 5 generations of women right now that just absolutely hate men. They just threw it in their heart. They just hate men. And this has to stop. This is totally unethical. When we were in COVID, and, I'll say, because I'm probably have to tell President Trump about this, when I was dropping off, a $20 business check, not cash, not a debit card transaction, into the city of Hopewell, right? I'm going to the city of Hopewell during, the alpha variant of COVID, where that was at its most extreme. Everybody had their masks on and stuff. Somebody imagine how that's going to make something stop, right? And it didn't. It did. People are going to look at me as a psychic like I'm crazy, and I'm like, y'all are the ones that did that shit, not me. And it's for real. And, I'm here to drop off, a $20 business check, and, there's a food pantry guy. I didn't even know you had to do taxes for food pantry. How did that work, right? It's like crazy shit, right? And I'm like, damn, that's crazy. It's like, well, who comes in doing what, right? It's like, I have no idea. It's a wild kangaroo place. And this lady, and she was black, and I heard her in a tone of voice, like, she's a black lady, and it's like, and I'm just reading what's going on. It's like, I hate men. I hate my father. She did that whole crazy jazz for 30 minutes during, the alpha variant of COVID in a local government business office in the city of Hopewell, Virginia. And the guy that was doing the food pantry actually had to call the office like 3 times. And I'm like, yo, people are getting killed just by being around each other, and you want to run your mouth about how much you hate men while there's men in here trying to drop off checks so you can get paid. Are you serious? It's like, and that's where we're at with people and things. People are just being very hateful, and this whole man-hating thing, like what's going on with the gaming industry in Hollywood, and I'm, as a published author working in Hollywood, I am calling out BioWare, I am calling out EA, I am calling out all these crazy woke people who, by the way, did not hire me as a multiracial, you know, making Dragon Age the woke guard and doing all this crazy identity politics. You don't see me doing that shit. And, you know what I mean? It's like, you guys need to get your crap together. It's like this crap with Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're going to put a black man in a samurai outfit and try to pass it off as that was, you know, back from fiction. I'm like, first off, y'all are just cherry picking information. I'm like, what?
Wait.
I'm like, what?
They
I'm
didn't
like,
call
what?
him a black Asiatic or Asiatic.
Man, I'm like, what are y'all doing over there, dude? Like, what are y'all doing, man? It's like, what? And then they tried to destroy a Shinto, you know, shrine and sell that as merchandise. And I was like, man, y'all are really gonna piss off the Japanese. And guess what? They pissed off the Japanese in a very negative way. And as someone who is my third book is actually, it's called Emerald Decade. It's going through the formal publication process of Dorrance Publishing, as in it's going straight to print. This story was read by Hayao Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli, so I already shook him up over there on the other side of the world. And as someone who's Korean, you know, if you look up how Koreans, you know, came about, you know, actually Chinese and Japanese because of feuding crazy war stuff, even, you know, before the Korean War. It's just what it is. I had to find it out the hard way. And every Korean knows that they're Chinese and Japanese, you know, ancestry. That's just what it is. You look it up, it's like you look up, you know, where Koreans are, you know, the peninsula and stuff. It's like there's been consistent wars between, you know, China and Japan. You know, they did that crazy jazz and, you know, all that sexual assault stuff. Totally there. You know, and that's where we come from. It's just you go up the family tree, then you shake it up. You know, it's like there's that joke. You shake up a family tree, you know, some black guy's gonna come up like, well, you shake up this family tree, there's gonna be Chinese and Japanese over here. And you know, I did, you know, shake hands with, kind of in a way, Hayao Miyazaki, and I wrote this story in my last deployment in Haiti. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I had this kind of crazy jacked up experience, and that got read by Hayao Miyazaki, and he told me, he's like, when you get a fan base, we're going to commit to making this film. And I was like, holy shit, right? And I was like, damn, dude, I'm the first combat veteran. That's crazy, yo. And that's what I want to tell people as well. Commit to your dreams. It's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be instant grits. When instant grits takes 3 to 5 minutes in the microwave, and you still can't tell me to walk to your microwave, and you've had that microwave for probably 5 years. Reality, right? It's like, oh god, it's like I'm right because I can run my mouth. It's like, yeah, you're still telling me how stupid you are while we're figuring things out. It's like, oh, there we are with reality, right? It's like crazy shit. But yeah, I just, you know, I really love people. I really want people to enjoy themselves, figure out what's going on, you know, with their rice cooker, figure out what's going on with their spices, you know, take a personal investigation into a spice aisle, see how many different types of salts you can find, how many different types of peppercorns you can find. And surprise, pepper does not come from green peppers, it comes from peppercorns, and there's like 7 different types of peppercorns. And the Chinese have Szechuan peppercorns, and they have a very particular type of taste, and it's actually really kind of good. But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's different things going on. We have this reality, and we have our imagination with how we mix and read and just make things happen. You know, and it's such a privilege to be alive. It's a privilege, you know, to drink water. You know, how do we get water bottles? How do we, you know, clean the air? How do we, you know, figure things out? And sometimes you have to waste energy to save energy. Like in the snowstorm where you have to let the faucets run for, you know, just drip by drip so that the pipes don't explode. It's like you got to waste energy to save energy. Yes, you do. That's just where we're at. And I wrote it down, and that's what you got to do so the pipes don't crack, right? That's right. Where we're at with reality. It's where we're at with reality, man. And I want people really, you know, slow down, figure out what's going on with your car, you know, figure out, you know, what it means to change the air pressure in your tire. And if they can read, you know, how much pressure is going on with their tires. We have a lot of ways of reading things. And what we have right now is a severe righteous illiteracy going on right here, particularly with the women. And they're not admitting when they're wrong, right? There was an episode, what was it, with Dr. Phil that came out recently? I think it was like 2 days ago. It could have been yesterday. And they were talking about the literacy rate that's going on with the children, you know, obviously 18 and below. And it's like we have all these people on TikTok saying, oh, I'm right, you know, follow me, you know, I'm going to be an internet cult leader or some shit, right? And that's what these dudes, they're saying they got followers, right, that they're leading some type of religion, right? That's basically what they're doing. And, you know, they still can't read, and they probably can't even write with artificial intelligence now trying to teach children.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
That's crazy. It's like, they call me crazy because I'm a psychic and I can talk to the dead and shit. And it's like, y'all are crazy. Like,
William, you mentioned that you wrote this book years ago. Why did it take so long to release it?
Well, it's just different things, different days, you know, and it's so weird, you know, I don't know what my celebrity status is, you know, even when Dorrance Publishing found me, like, I'm not on the internet that often, like, I got different things going on, and it was such a crazy experience because I was working with Buffalo 8, I've been working with them for like 10 years, you know, we got 3 intellectual properties that we're working on, you know, we got some actors and actresses, I can't mention who their names are, and it's kind of a crazy thing, you know, who knows what, who's saying what, and, you know, this is that conversation where, you know, you might be talking with a game development company and they think, you know, that you're working on this, which I was, and I can't really go any further than that. And they found out the name of it. I was like, how did you find out the name of this? I didn't say shit. It's like, if people knew I was doing something and I wasn't saying anything, right? And then it's like, fuck it. It's like, somebody's going to know. This is going to be, if we were going to go this like a tournament game, I'm just going to hit you as hard as I can. Fuck if you know what I'm doing, right? That's the way I go sometimes. And Dorrance Publishing contacted me. They're like, we know that you're working on this project called Fantasia GT, and it's like, would you like to publish? And I was like, first off, how did you find that out? It's like, I didn't say shit about it, right? It's like, how did you find that out? It's like, I was working with Buffalo 8 on that stuff during COVID, man. I was like, this is me and my art squad just running game, and I was like, how did they find out? How did they, man, my computer's not even connected to the internet, and I'm trying to figure out how they found out. And I was like, you know what, I have this, you know, research paper that I wrote when I was in college. I got an A for it. And I was like, let's see where this goes, right? Let's just see where this goes. I wrote this when I was in college, and I was literally 10 minutes from Disneyland, so I saw the fireworks every night. I saw Disney princesses get puked on by different kids. Yeah. And yeah, it was just a crazy, college was crazy, man. I had my PTSD with Haiti, and then I had Disneyland, right? And it's just crazy shit. And, you know, it was like, well, let's see where this goes. I just wanted to see where it goes, and I turned it into Dorrance Publishing. And I talked with my art squad about putting, you know, what we were doing with the Luminous Universe, and, you know, just across from road, you know, some of the artwork, and we got a lot more artwork coming out. And actually, we're getting ready to have what we call the December Promise promotional art piece, and this is going to be, you know, showcasing, you know, where things are going with the story and stuff. It's a beautiful landscape. We got like 30 different characters in it and stuff. We already got Atticus and Dorrance Publishing's permission to get their logo to brand it. We're just waiting on some other things. And I sent Imagination off to Dorrance Publishing. And they said, we'll print it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never done this before. Let's see what happens with this, right? And, you know, sometimes you just got to figure out what's going on with people, right? And you just got to take your shot. I don't want to say it's like dating, right? It's like, you know, people were talking about hypergamy with women. And it's like, well, you can have different publishers and stuff. It's like, well, one publisher can do this like a different grocery store does that, right? And it's just, oh, what's going on with the universe, right? And it's like, oh, I don't know. And that's how Imagination came into being during the alpha variant of COVID. And it's like, wow, I got my first book published. That was pretty cool. And, you know, people want to know about the sequel, and it's like, well, I'm still writing it. You know, there's been so much that has happened since back then and now. While I've been working in Hollywood, you know, obviously I'm a professional psychic and a baker in the day, so I just, different calls, different days, different things, and then, you know, somebody saying, I got something in my house, or it's like, something's wrong with me, and then, you know, I deal with other types of goofy victims, or have crazy phone calls in relation to dogs or whatever, and I have some crazy clients. Like, I love my clients to death, and they're probably like, that's my psychic Reiki Master over there. It's like, yeah, it's like, different days, different things. Yeah, and it's just different days, different things. And, you know, with Imagination Volume 2, it will be called Imagination Volume 2 Broken Mirror. I'm going to be diving deep as to what's going on with the dating market. You know, the girl that was at the very end of Imagination Volume 1 was a woman that I was going to marry and may still do. I don't really care, because this is going to be a legal thing anyway. Her name is Caitlin Antoinette Nolan, and I served with her doing Africa Partnership Station 2009 and 2010. And we both got PTSD from being in combat. She's going to be pulling tooth and nail about saying she doesn't have it. And I caught her prostituting in my hometown from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, no.
Yep. So I'm going to be going with the stuff I found out with Veterans Affairs, and I already wrote a letter to the White House. They already know about it, so it's not like, oh, he's just saying shit over social media. Like, no, I already told Trump, so he already knows I'm coming. And this is not Trump's fault. This is something that's actually under Obama's fault, and cleaning up under somebody, right? And we make choices with things, you know, and people are in vulnerable positions, and people are turning to things for satisfaction and health and stuff. You can't turn to drugs unless you get it from a doctor. Right, and that can even be a tricky conversation, you know, what drugs actually are going to help you or hurt you. And she chose the dark path of PTSD. I say that with a lot of love. If she can hear me right now, I would tell her, you need to come home to me right now because I know about this. You have a serious problem. I'm not blaming you, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to enable this. Right? Right? And even as a psychic, I know certain things that she doesn't want to admit. And it's like, does you know I was doing that? Yes, I do. I know a whole lot more than you think I know. With my tarot deck, and over a couple of years, even with me, what they call being an empath, that means I can feel how other people are feeling. And you would think I would just be having an emotional spasm, like, oh my god, emotional overload, like I got invaded by like computer viruses and shit. No, it just means I can just feel how other people are feeling, and when I can feel her, like even right now, and it's like, you need to apologize and come home. This is crazy. Like, this is just absolutely nuts. It's like, and I did not push you into this, and you know I didn't push you into this. And we have a serious issue right now with the women of our generation where they're putting themselves into danger instead of talking straight. And they're doing it on purpose, right? There's such a thing as being stubborn stupid. This is one of those conversations. And it's like, this is not ethical. You got to tell the truth. You got to tell the truth when you go to the doctor. You got to tell the truth to the person that you love. And if you love somebody, you got to take that risk, and you got to walk that path with them into marriage. And there's going to be bumps along the road, just like you have, a joyride. When we think about marriage, this is a commitment with God in mind, right? This is something that I'm going to, stick with somebody through thick and thin. And most people can't handle it through thin. They can't. They don't have the wherewithal. And marriage is there to protect you. It's not there to hurt you. You're choosing to be with somebody through the thick and thin, through an ice storm and stuff. It's like a lot of people right now, they don't know responsibility. They're wrecking their homes. You see that oftentimes, and unfortunately, you see that oftentimes, many times so in the black community, where women are wrecking their homes, they're getting jealous because men are dating women of different ethnicities and all this other stuff. And it's like, people are going to find who makes them happy so that they can continue the experience of life. It's like, how do you read what happens down the generations because you don't like the fact that, a black guy's dating an Asian girl or a white girl, right? First off, that's just a silly notion. And then two, if you don't take that step up and get serious with your shit to get married, it will be taken for you. And that might mean somebody get chosen over you, right? That's where we're at with things. You have to make decisions and commitments. And women are not doing that right now. They want to be right. They want to be righteous. They want to be, this feminism crap. And it's crap. Feminism is crap the entire way through. I would say that on national TV. I write some crazy shit with my fiction anyway. And it's like, William's going ham on these women. It's like, they deserve it. Things take time and money. It does. It takes time and money to build a house. It takes time and money to run a house. It takes time and money to make money, right? And women right now are not understanding this. They just think they can just get a free meal ticket, and then you see these Cash App, PayPal, and all this other goofy stuff. Like, send me Cash App and all this other goofy nonsense. It's like, money isn't free. Money's not free.
It's like they want it instant without the work.
It's not how real life works. And I'm going to be very harsh about this as well. I am not a proponent of abortion, right? And I'm going to say this with so much love. I'm not going to mention my client's name, but she said some very privileged things to me. And I take this so seriously because I have a relationship now with her unborn child. And every so often, she calls me. She's like, "Hey, can you hit the baby? Not like actually, punch the baby, but zap the baby with Reiki, because he's getting a little excited in the uterus." And the baby will calm down and stuff. I have a personal relationship, and unborn babies do have a spirit. They do have a soul. It will either hover around the mother or it will be in the baby, right? So I am not a proponent of abortion. When a baby has an abortion, when the abortion process happens, that is the most, on a scale of 1 to 10, on the top 3 things you're not supposed to do in this lifetime, you're not supposed to have an abortion. It's different if it's a stillborn. It's different if, there's a miscarriage. It's a different thing. You are not under any circumstance supposed to have an abortion. And the doctors that, that perform these abortions, and you can look this onto YouTube with YouTube, what these abortion doctors go through, psychologically after they do the deed. These are not healthy people. This is an actual death economy, right? You cannot recklessly go around having sex. You can't do it. And people back in the day weren't able to do it as well. I'm going to say things that are very painful. There's a lot of heat that are coming at men because men like to have sex with other women, the male gaze and things. We are sexual creatures, just like the birds and the bees, right? This is where we're at with reality. Men like to look at breasts. If you go over to Africa, women are walking around topless at the beach. They look nice. They look pretty. Men like to have sex. This is where we're at. Women need to get over that. It's what it is. And, when we think about these things, you cannot be a provocative victim, number one. You can't go around going to a gym, making a sexual scene and wondering why people are looking at you. That's totally unethical. And then two, when men were having, sex with different women, let's say back in the Middle Ages, right? Women often died during the pregnancy, during childbirth, and post-childbirth. And that happens to this day. So I don't see many women asking why were men having sex with so many women, because the women oftentimes died after sex. May not have been immediately, but death did occur, including on Game of Thrones with Jon Snow's mother. And that was a very real thing where women were giving birth standing up. Not on a bed, on their back. So we think about, what wet nurses are when mothers had deceased. You see what I'm saying? It's like we never asked if the men actually enjoyed having multiple wives. We think that. Is that the truth? Is that the case? When women were often dying from childbirth and that was part of life? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that an interesting topic of history? And people are not, again, we think about literacy. People want to be right about what happened during the 1960s, the horror stories, right? What do they call that? What was it? I'm not a proponent of Kevin Samuels, but I did watch the movie The Color Purple, and different movies where they had, like Danny Glover being a total jackass or something. That was not the case with most families. That was an extreme horror story that they try to make to be the majority. A minority is not the majority, right? And people, they had multiple wives, kind of to this day still, because women often died. That was a death sentence. And guess what? With birth control, women aren't dying, right? Isn't that scary? Women should be celebrating right now that they can be alive after having childbirth and being with their one man. And most men just want to have one wife. But what are we seeing in the market? We're seeing depravity. We're seeing fear. We're seeing sexual fear. And then you include drugs. You include all sorts of goofy bullshit, pimps, shit that happens like if you're in the military where people get married for benefits and get divorced because they hate each other. People getting married for the wrong reasons. And even back in the days, and this typically happens, even in the Middle Ages, even to now, where with prestigious families or even royalty, cousins were marrying each other, so you got cross incest going on there, which is funny as a multiracial. What do you think? What does the multiracial have to think about cross incest, right? And it's like, y'all are crazy. I'm not the one that got infected with COVID. This is what it is. You get genetic defects when stuff like that happens. And you can clearly see that if you were to do that, if you were a farmer, it's like you try to grow the same crops out of the same ground, right? It actually hurts the ground. And women should be celebrating right now that they can just have one man and we can have, one man, one woman, in a happy household. But what are we actually seeing? We're seeing women pimping out men with child support by different men, and the children have different fathers. And unfortunately, when the same men are impregnating the women, and you know this because you're black, because I'm black. I've been at big black families, which was kind of goofy in my case, because then you saw the Koreans, you saw all the white people who are actually French. French people are really tiny. That's just what it is. French people are just super tiny people. And, we have these family reunions not only so that people can meet each other, but we also have it so that you don't date your cousin accidentally, right? And what happens, when you have a small minority of men going around trying to be thug and shit, impregnating all the women, and you have a bunch of, single men that are trying to get married and they don't want to marry a woman with children by the same men. What do we have going on here? At some point, and then you have, that's what we call this goofy ass cross incest shit, where black women are like, and this happens even with white women and stuff too. It's like, men are stepping out, different ethnicities and stuff, and it's like, you create the scenario, you create the situation, this is what's on the market, right? At some point, and when we think about, Ancestry.com and all that, DNA stuff, people are going to find out theoretically what's going on here, who's actually connected to who, And wouldn't that be a nasty thing to say that, especially when it comes with black women, that they should all, be with black men and stuff, and they're, breeding with the same men, and then their children are breeding with their cousins or second brother, whatever. I'll be that psychic. It's like, what are you guys doing over there? It's like, stop that. It's like, stop doing that because you don't want to figure out or date somebody who's Asian or something.
Right. Well, William, we are running out of time. I did want to ask you about this. I saw in a video you had a Zelda game in the background. Now, I am a huge Zelda fan. Right now I'm playing Echoes of Wisdom, almost done.
Awesome.
Which Zelda title is your favorite?
So it's actually a mix between this, cut it short and simple. The game in the back is actually, and I got this when I was meeting Gary Spivey for his retreat. Meeting Gary Spivey, he's a world famous psychic. He's actually my teacher. This is A Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. And this game, my dead mother beat this on the brick Game Boy. Like, my dead mom, she was a first generation gamer mom. She was into Pokemon. She beat Super Metroid. She beat A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. She even beat Alleyway. She beat all that shit. I learned how to game from my dead mom, right? And she was, again, a social worker, French and Cherokee, right? So I carry that family experience, of gaming. My favorite Zelda, however, is The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask to this day.
Same. It's the hardest one ever, and my favorite.
It's the most emotional roller coaster, and I mean, it's a whirlwind. And I'm going to say this, as a closing thing, not to take up too much time. I actually did meet Nobuo Uematsu, the composer of Final Fantasy. I'm actually getting ready to re-meet him at the end of January for a Distant Worlds concert. And to any person that's listening to this right now, you can achieve your dreams. Don't let anything get in your way. And I love you for you to take that journey and to see where you go with things. And God bless.
God bless. William, where can our listeners get a copy of Imagination Volume 1?
So you can go onto Amazon.com. You can also visit Dorrance Publishing's main website. We're still having a kind of a goofy thing where we're trying to get it used to be sold as a hardcover on Amazon.com, and then they took it off. We're still trying to figure out what happened. I think it was a technical thing. But you can still purchase the hardcover from Dorrance Publishing, and I can have, Alyssa, I'm going to butcher her last name, Biodino. She's totally going to hate me for that in a playful way. I can send you, or you can get it from Atticus Publishing, and I can send you the links so that you can physically purchase it from there. And you can just buy it from DorrancePublishing.com. And, wherever that this goes, I mean, I just want positivity. I want people to understand what's going on with themselves, what they're ingesting, by the media, their food, and just enjoy their life. It's a privilege to be alive. It's great to have a bottle of Coke. It's great to play in the snow and the sand if you do it appropriately. And just enjoy your life. Enjoy having sex. Enjoy, being with people, drink responsibly and play a video game and have fun.
Absolutely. What an incredible conversation with William Demps. I believe you need your own podcast, man. You just have a wealth of knowledge and a lot of deep topics that needs addressing, and you seem to be the guy to address them and at least get the conversation started to where we all, as a collective, start saying, maybe he's on to something, He has groundbreaking work in Imagination Volume 1 to the visionary scope of the Luminous Universe. We've gained incredible insights into his work, his resilience, and vision for our humanity and our future. So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to both William Demps and Vigilantes Radio. Leave us a rating, share the show, and support the journey by buying a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/Vigilantes Radio. There is a science to popping popcorn, just in case you didn't know your watts. Try it out. Somewhere between the sweet spot, I think, is 2 minutes, depending on, like William said, depending on your watts. If you understand your watts, you understand how long it takes to pop a bag of popcorn. But hey, it's easy science. All right, until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and stay connected. Thank you so much, William.
Thank you as well. And any future podcasts you want to do, just, hook me up or, talk with Atticus, and we'll get some conversations going. And maybe we'll game out, over a stream or something, and we'll have fun.
All right, man. Looking forward to it. Thank you, William.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself, all right? Thank you so much for everything.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Peace to all. My name is Deanie, and I am the host of Vigilantes Radio Live. I think that we are beyond just asking cool questions and getting cool responses. I think that we are here as creatives to provide an example that you can do things different outside of expectations, because some of us simply were not born into the club, but there is perhaps a door, window, or back gate that we can leave a clue for you to get into. Life is short, but there are plenty of moments to try and get it right. Pursuing your dreams and learning from mistakes may be tough, but regret is tougher. To book your interview, email us at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. That's a V as in victorious. Or visit onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm counting on you. Heaven, we all are counting on you to step into your purpose and your passion. You are listening to Vigilantes Radio Live on iHeartRadio, providing you with an opportunity to dive deeper.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.
What's up, guys? It's Dini, and I want to welcome you on a journey of the heart and of the mind. These Fucking Feelings podcast is a beacon in the world of mental health advocacy, and it invites you to join a conversation that's changing lives. We are here to share, listen, and grow together. Led by the passionate Michael Bravery, alongside the insightful Rebecca and Crystal. This award-winning podcast dives deep into the human experience, from navigating relationships to coping with loss. No topic is off limits. It's about real stories and real emotions. These Fucking Feelings is more than just a show. It's a community, a place where vulnerable isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. You can find it across major platforms, including YouTube and Facebook Watch. This podcast is a touchstone for anyone seeking understanding and support. These Fucking Feelings podcast, where every emotion is valid and every story matters. Tune in and transform the way you see mental health.